So I feel like around the internet a lot, you sort of hear the conversation, especially if you're coming up as a cinematographer. I feel like you hear a lot of like, should cinematographers own their own gear? Should DPs own their own gear? Should certain people own their own gear? As it pertains to filmmaking. And my answer is yes. A short answer, yes. But the long answer is also yes, but it really depends. But yeah, this is a shorter answer. Yes, go buy everything if you think it'll make your workflow better. Da 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 da. Boom, that's it. If you want to dip, you totally can. Just leave a like before you go. Thank you for your time. You have a good one. But if you're looking for the little bit more of like a yes, but it depends, and maybe you're thinking about making an investment equipment wise, and maybe you want to hear my 2 cents, this is what it is. So I want to preface this by saying, like, if you're not in the financial position to do something, do not do this. This is not financial advice. I'm just someone who took a gamble on themselves and their career and have made these decisions. Do with this information what you will. Again, not financial advice, and I am going to be speaking through the lens of a cinematographer. So if you're a production designer listening to this thinking, what is he talking about? Or, oh, you're listening to this thinking you're some other production person, just, it's going to be a different answer for you, but maybe my 2 cents will help. Maybe you decide to listen. But yeah, without further ado, I'll get into why I think this is the case. I think it makes passion projects like significantly easier to get into, rather than having to cut a chunk of the budget to rent equipment from a rental house. Even if you have like a given relationship with them, and even if you can cut the price down, like if they're willing to give you a discount or whatever it is, it still is like that barrier of like, oh, you have to go to the rental house and you have to get XYZ, or, oh, if you forget something, it's like, oh, like the rental house is closed because whatever, it's a weekend or whatever it is. And I think by, having the equipment, and say it's like some big ticket item, like an Alexa Mini LF, Sony Venice, that sort of thing, by having it available and accessible, I think that you can sort of bring on this sort of premium look without it being so expensive to do so. And it's only gonna help your work as well by having access to certain equipment, or by being able to showcase your work in the best way possible with the best tools possible. Then I think inevitably it's going to boost yourself. It's going to boost the film. It's going to boost sort of everybody on that production. And it's not going to be as expensive to do so. So that's one reason I think it's great. If you can rent it out, say there's like a period where you have an emergency, you have an injury, that sort of thing, and you're not able to work, I think by having the ability to rent it out or add it as a kit fee, if you're not working enough, it'll pay for itself, and I think it's worth it in that case. For example, my equipment is under consignment at a rental house, for example. So say there's a period where work is a little bit slow for me, I can then have my equipment at the very least be active for me, and working and generating revenue even if I'm not directly able to earn it myself. And this also gets into like another personal philosophy of like, um, you don't want to be working directly for every dollar you make. If I can then take the time and say, you know what, I'm going to spend a few days on vacation with my family or with my friends or whatever it is. I'm going to spend a couple of days with my partner here and there. I kind of have the flexibility to do that because then I have a pool of revenue to pull from. Again, the consignment thing is not the case for everybody else. If you decide you want to just maintain being an owner operator and not have it go to a rental house, then you can also rent it to friends. Again, that's at your discretion. And if you say you don't even do that, you can always tack it on as an extra kit fee for your projects. Say you're working on a music video, you can add, oh, this is my base price plus I have this camera. Say it's like an Alexa Mini that I can add to this. I can add my Alexa Mini package to this and kind of bring up my rate a little bit. So it's like you'd be earning a little bit more than you otherwise normally would, having to see that invoice go to the rental house, and you're just seeing like, damn, that's like several $1,000s that like could easily be in my pocket. At least that was the lens that I was looking at it through. So, it's another source of revenue as well. And another thing too is like just having access to equipment like offhand. You can just sort of practice. You can mess around. You can take a risk with an idea, maybe test something in advance. For example, maybe about a month ago, I did a camera test for a short film that I'm going to be working on later this year. And by having the director and the production designer and the makeup artist kind of all in my studio space with my camera package to be able to try certain things and see like, oh, this is how it's going to look on this focal length, for example, or oh, this is kind of how it's going to come across on camera, because inevitably like you seeing something is obviously different than what the lens is going to see. And I think by being able to do a test and kind of practice different things and just not worry about like, oh, I have to return this to the rental house like in a few hours, or oh, I'm going to get hit with a late fee. You could just be like, you know what, it's mine and I'm just going to keep it. In my case, because it's on consignment, I could just go to the rental house and say, oh, I'm going to keep this for a few more days. And they're just like, oh, okay, no problem. Or you can then, if you're going to keep it for yourself, it's like, oh, yeah, let's do the test right now. By being able to have things like offhand, you're allowing yourself to kind of do more, giving yourself the excuse of like, okay, there's a barrier of entry. There's no longer that barrier of entry if you have the equipment. You can just pop in and shoot something. That's the beauty of it, right? So if you like to tinker around, it's a great investment to have. And especially if like you use equipment a lot, at least foundationally for me, when I've first thought of making these sorts of investments, was if I'm going to the rental house for it a bunch, I should probably buy it. And that goes for so many little things like all my camera AKS, my camera packages, my, all the little accessories. I got kind of, it felt a little bit monotonous to try and rent it over and over again and having to have all those conversations with the rental house. Like, oh, I didn't have the right piece. It's like, no, you got it. You know what I mean? And that allows you to approach the work with a little bit more confidence as well. By you knowing your tool and understanding like all the minutia of like, okay, this is the way that this sensor reacts. For example, like if you shot on like Alexa 35 or like the Sony Venice, where they have like the low light modes or the enhanced sensitivity modes, if you own the camera, you can then go and test it and then do your due diligence in terms of like, okay, this is the way it reacts. Then you can know when you're on set and you're in a certain scenario, you can then go, okay, this is how it's going to react in this sort of lighting conditions, and react accordingly. And that's going to save production so much time. Again, you can only do that because you own the equipment. Obviously there's a lot of different advantages to owning equipment, in my opinion. The one thing I will say, if you do not have the means, if you're struggling as a freelancer, if you do not, if you're not getting the work that is worth it for this sort of equipment, don't even think about making this purchase. And I'm not saying this to be a Debbie Downer or a pessimist in that regard. I just think that, you know, rent it for a little bit, get yourself in a rhythm of work, get yourself building out a network, or borrow from maybe a mentor or another person in your same department. If you can do that for now while you're building your career and while you're making a little bit of money, and then go ahead and reinvestment, it's going to be a lot better in the long run, because you're not starting out in the negative. You're not turning it into a money pit. Again, there's also camera purchases that are large financial decisions, obviously, where you're having to get a loan, or you're having to finance it for X amount of years. Like that's another conversation. But again, if it's going to turn into a money pit, and it's going to turn into a money pit that you're immediately starting at a loss and a negative place, don't do it. Like that's you don't want to put yourself in a financial position that's going to harm you, or that's going to just ruin any momentum that you have in terms of investing in equipment and that sort of thing. Don't do it. Again, but okay, but besides that asterisk, that semi big asterisk, depending on the person, it's been a very, 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 very good experience for me. It's allowed me to. It's opened a lot of doors for me. It's allowed me to not think twice about the tools that I'm using. It allows me to have a very seamless and not so what's the word I'm looking for? It allows me to use the tools intuitively and not have so much friction between myself and the images that I want to create. Because I'm comfortable with the tools, I'm confident, I've made the investment, it's made my money back. Starting from that positive place, I can then approach productions through the lens of like, okay, what is our lighting package look like? What is, how is our schedule going to look like? What are the setups? And that's already so many decisions that you would then have to worry about, that I then don't have to think about by me owning the equipment and having that confidence, that security in the equipment that I'm using. And I think it could be a good thing for you. Hopefully you got something from this. I feel like I was a bit rambly, but this is just my heart's on my sleeve. This is how I feel about this topic. And I hope you gain some insight. Have a good one. Peace.